like a frost,
Oh,
like a boss.
oh. All right. So, Helen, welcome to the Black Tower. I'm the Sorcerer Ahrimanahsul. Tonight, I have a special guest with me, Predator Devok from Christopagan Magic YouTube channel. How you doing, brother?
Hey man, it's been a while since I've been on camera. Oh,
Yeah, it is.
why for a while? Man,
Oh, yeah. I mean, last time I saw you, I think you were doing videos on certain Necronomicon pieces and stuff. And the very last one that I actually saw was you making a circle on some material fabric.
yes, actually, I was making the Necronomicon circle from the Alazif version of the Necronomicon. I do have that in fabric, and it took me all of 4 days to make that thing.
I want to do a quick hello to everybody that's here. Ethan, Carrie Darkstar, and anybody else that's here. Helen, welcome. Glad to have you guys here tonight. Uh, so, brother, we wanted to sit and we wanted to talk about your roots in Rosicrucianism, wasn't it?
Rosicrucianism and esoteric Christianity.
You know, usually you lose people. When you throw out the C word, y'all lose a lot of motherfuckers. But, you know, I also realize though that there are elements and pieces that no matter where you are in the occult that we employ and that we use. Uh, so let's start from there. Let's get your viewpoint on that.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm actually an interfaith minister. Interfaith meaning I'm not restricted to any one particular denomination or even faith in the entire world.
I think it froze up.
But where I've settled was the esotericism and the more hermetic type magics.
Hell yeah. You know, one of the roots that you and I share is in high magic. Uh,
Right. Um, high magic that, Kabbalistical. Of course, we got the Necronomicon, Golden Dawn.
yeah.
Uh, I've, I'm a member of the Knights Templar and Rosicrucian, stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So when you're talking about high magic, you're talking about a lot of discipline and a lot of practice and stuff. We were talking about when we came on here about how I did the rush workings for a year for one of my grades that I was working through, and and I was saying how interesting it was to have to be awake when the sun rose, and then during the different times of day, and how it changes your energetic body's reaction. And so, like, I'd be awake, 5:30 in the morning, sometimes 4:40, depending on when the sun rose, and be crashing about, anywhere between 6:30 and 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, depending on what time of year it was, because it
Hey,
changes
man,
your body's energies.
you could be up, up at 3 in the morning. I've been up all night. There's also fasting. There's all kinds of discipline, and there are sacrifices. It's a give and take. Um, one of the actual hermetic principles I have here kind of goes into that is the principle of cause and effect. There is a give and take. Because you do this, the effect and uh, reason is this. This is what happened. It's one of the things that we always have to keep in mind. And the hermetic principles are a very key point in a lot of high magic.
Yeah, I was about to say, the principle of polarity comes into play.
Polarity.
Yeah, when you're talking about that cause and effect, it's they are literally one and the same. They really are.
Yeah, the cause and effect because you do this, this is supposed to happen, and this is the mindset you're trying to get into, and this is how you're doing it. It's kind of like I said, I am fall into esoteric Christianity, but really, it's a lot like the Order of the Golden Dawn. Instead, we have like a esoteric Order of Knights Templar. We do use Christian symbolism more than we do the Egyptian, but of course, the Order of the Golden Dawn did use a lot of Judeo-Christian symbolism in some of their works as well. Um, but yeah, the symbolism is what's key there, and it isn't necessarily. Oh, I don't want to. I don't know how to say it. The fact that this is like an actual being outside into space, and we're little tiny ants that think that this higher being trying to pay attention to us.
Yeah.
Because the Godhead, in our sense, because that's the order of the great work, the goal is to reach the Godhead. Well, the Godhead is you, your higher self. That is your astral form and all that order, the spiritual body. And that's the goal we try to reach.
Yeah. No matter what system you're working, it always ends up being about the same. As far as coming to an
Absolutely.
understanding of your own spiritual divinity, and whether it's a Godhead, whether it's the crown, whether it's whatever. I mean, it has so many different labels and names for it, but it's all the same thing.
Well,
Uh,
see, that brings up a very good point. Um, for instance, a very key element is the Kabbalah. When you're talking about high magic, eventually, somewhere, in some form, you're going to come into the terms of Kabbalah. Now, the Necronomicon works with Kabbalah by the gates. And if you actually lay them out, I mean, you've got pictures of this, and if you actually lay them out, the gate working is essentially the same path as the flaming sword of Kabbalah. You also have the same explanation done with the classic Roman and Greek gods and goddesses and the planetary spheres. The same with the Order of the Golden Dawn. They use Egyptian, and we use angels and Christian-based symbolisms behind it. So you're right. No matter where you go, it kind of all resembles the same thing. The goal is the same. This is kind of where you get into the idea of all paths lead to one.
Hell yeah, because it's and that's key right there. All paths are the same path. They all lead to the same place, even if they are different paths. So
Right.
it's more in line of employing concepts. That's actually what is the difference between this path, that path, this system, that system. It's just the symbols and the system employed.
Well, see, it was funny because even, uh, you know, I'm in the amino communities and everything, and I could be slap in the middle of the community. People come up to me and ask me, well, what is one of the simplest ways to understand it? Or how do I get started? I tell them first, remove all labels. It don't matter what you call it as long as you understand how it works and the very base principle behind it. It doesn't matter what you call it. You can make up your, and this might sound a little taboo for some, but if you really wanted to, with the understanding of these symbols and how the mechanics work, you can make your own religion if you really wanted to.
I want to build a religion around the coffee. And everybody
Well,
out there already, I'm surprised someone's like, oh, you haven't already created a religion? I'm going, yeah.
right, but you get what I'm saying. Like it isn't the names that are important. It is the symbolism behind it. One of the
Well, my very first Book of Shadows from about 23 years ago, one of the leading lines in it that I wrote back then, and I found it to still be true. The many names of God create a path. Therein lies the mystery. And back then, I wasn't necessarily looking for God. I was, but I was looking for God with the end, not some God without. And the only way that I had 23, 24 years ago to do that was through employing the different names of spirits and beings and so forth and so on. Probably why I went completely fucking nuts invoking spirits left and right.
Well, see, it's one of the how do I put this? No matter what faith or path you come from or whatever, the truth is the same. We are limited in our physical forms and our, earthly mentalities. And this is one of the reasons we try to strive and work to reach our higher selves and understand the mechanics. You could strip all labels and you could strip everything down to its very base. But it is, like I said, the symbolisms and it is the practice itself and what it does for you that is important. Uh, Me, like I said, I'm an interfaith minister. I do have my personal preference, as it is, like I said, but I do not bash on others because I do understand, hey, this is not right for them, but this works for them instead. So go for it. And I can easily help others with it, and I do. A lot of times I do try.
Well, see, everybody has their strength, their strong point, something they're good at doing, and usually at their own axis or crux. For example, in yours, being able to take the religious and be able to bring them into different belief systems and stuff through your particular method. So hell, if nothing else, stuff like that's always good, even for somebody just trying to break the dogma and the traditions that have been built up in their psyche over the years from religious structures and indoctrination. So it's all fucking important to it.
All right, but let's get into my magical name. I do use a magical name or a saint name. I call myself Sir Dolvak Makdur RC. Now, essentially, the reason that is because it goes back to the basics, the very beginning of when I started. I didn't start with high magic, and I didn't start with esoteric Christianity or anything. I started in the Celtic path, and as I learned more and grew, so did my practices and the way I did things grew as well. And they changed over time. I did all kinds of things, trying to understand and find the way that worked for me. And I did find the way that finally worked for me.
That's the most important part of it is that no matter what you're doing, no matter where you are in life, no matter what you're doing, finding something that works for you, something that fits you. So, dude, kudos to that, brother.
Well, also, but like Sir Dolvak MacDaughter RC, it did not always start out with that long title either. That title also grew, um, depending on position and what I did and all that. So Dolvak MacDur means son of the oak in the Celtic tongue or whatever, and that's where I started. And so I kept it. I thought about changing it or whatever, um, but I kind of thought to myself, well, it's good to know where we come from, where we began. We don't lose hold of the foundation, and you just don't lose hold of that foundation. So I kept the Celtic name, but as I joined the Knights Templar and the Hermetic Order, I I grew along ranks and became Sir. So Sir Dolvat Macdur. But RC is actually the Rosicrucian signature.
Yeah, Christian Rosencreutz. I remember.
So, so now my title has became Sir Dolvat Macdur RC, or Knight, Son of the Oak of the Rosicrucian Order. I mean, really, that's basically what it says.
Yeah.
But it
Well,
too grew.
yeah, it's stuff like what you're talking about. That's usually people who are into high magic and have either studied or read a lot on it, or hell, even practiced it for that matter. They'll take that name. They'll actually understand what that is. So it's kind of cool you're breaking it down for people who don't understand that.
Well, okay, so I've also been, I'm gonna say the C word. I've been to the Catholic Church. One of the things that you'll notice if anyone comes from, a lot of them like to choose a saint name, or essentially the same lines of a magical name that we would use. The reason this is because it is to separate yourself from the mundane world to the this higher thinking, this higher form, closer to God, closer to the higher self, closer to the source, the all, or whatever you want to call it. God, goddess, I mean, light, dark, whatever. But the idea is almost the same. And it is to separate yourself and bring you closer. It's simple. It's very simple, and that's all it is. But it brings you closer to the thinking of the Godhead.
Yeah. When I was over the years, as I've done a lot of what I've done, I've belonged to a lot of online magical groups, stuff like that, and they treat it the same way as if it were a living tradition taught in person, like through a temple. So, like you would have you would choose your motto, so forth and so on. So, like for example, like in these different groups or whatever, you would have to dictate in proper form any post or anything you were saying, and ending it like at the top, it would have like the sun, the moon, for that date or whatever, so forth and so on. Then at the bottom, it would have like, like in my case, it was Prayer OSU, which is Omnia Sint Unum, which was my own personal motto upon the path of the Hierophant. I haven't chosen one for the path of Magick yet. That's for lots and lots of reasons. Partly because just because you start a new grade doesn't mean that you automatically know what your motto is going to be or anything like that. Usually it's something that'll come to you, especially if you're working the current. Uh,
Right.
then I've been involved in a lot of left-hand path practices that haven't exactly been, in alignment with certain high magic, because a lot of them I have no problem with high magic. I love high magic. I love the light of the soul within and so forth and so on. But the one thing that none of them ever touch on, that they never work through, is the Nox aspect. And those are only taught in like polemic settings, and those are usually only taught in person. Which I've had a lot of really cool teachers over the years share certain rights with me, certain workings, so forth and so on. But that comes because I'm actually I'm a dedicant upon the path anyway, and because I can prove I know my knowledge and so forth and so on. Because and I think that to a degree, I think that in magic that's the way it should be, to a certain degree. Uh, for not as far as like leading somebody first into a path or something like that, or introducing somebody to new type style workings. Uh, but along the way, somewhere there, you have to keep it from the uninitiated. And it isn't because they're trying to pull an elitist bullshit with it. It's because if you don't already understand the basics of it, the fundamentals, what'll happen is as more advanced the more advanced the teachings are, is what it'll do is it can literally destroy it can destroy your life. I'm just going to put it very simply. You haven't learned how to harness and control the lesser energies. You'll never learn to harness and control the greater energies. Because when Lux, anywhere between Lux and Nox, what you're talking about are primal aspects. Now they don't begin teaching it to you as if it's a primal aspect. They come at it from from the absurdity of conscious and subconscious. Okay,
Right.
or day and night. That way you get used to doing workings during the day, and then you get used to doing workings at night. and then they'll break it down a little bit later on, and they'll be teaching you how to break it down in your conscious instead of day and night. Then it's conscious, subconscious, and then past then it becomes primal, and that's when you start to truly learn why there are three spheres on each of the twin pillars. Uh, and every system of high magic has different words that they'll use to describe these processes, everything from process to grades to rituals, so forth and so forth. And I remember when I first met you and was introduced to the fact that you're into the Knights Templar and stuff like that, and you've been working on your grade systems all along. I was really impressed with that because I don't get to meet too many of those people nowadays. I just don't. So that's interesting.
Well, I didn't always start out where I am. Like I said, I mean, I started, and I didn't have teachers or anything. Really, between you and Nick, actually got me to understand better the Necronomicon. And I understood to an extent, but I had like one little block was how did the ritual itself, how was it put together? And Nick really sent me a few images and explained it to me and broke it down kind of into steps. And I was like, oh. And from then on, I understood how to do the entire book and the working. This is before I even joined the order and all, which is great because by the time I did join the order, I was sitting here going, you ain't telling me anything new. But I am going back through those processes again because always growing, always expanding, and always achieving. Um, so it's good to revisit and go back, whether it's the same form or a different form. But it did kind of uh, give me better ways to explain it, how to put it together better, and everything, and how it made more sense. And on top of that, for a long time there, I didn't know how to work the one of the books I work from the most now. This is the Key of Solomon. I could not understand that book to save my life. It was one of my first books, and I still have it. It's been everywhere with me, man, from the very beginning. But I could not understand it, and then one day, I'm reading it and reading it. All of a sudden, I just get it. I understand. Now I work from it almost nonstop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Solomonic magic was one of the first things I dipped my toes into, and I was sadly enough when I began, I was looking into the ritual elements of it, and I was learning the hermeticism behind it, and some of the belief structures that go with it. And earlier on, I was directed towards a line of a role called the King of Exorcists. Uh, and I fit in real nicely there. That was a good role. I enjoy playing that role, as it were, within the structure and element of Solomonic magic. Uh, the problem is that as I evolved and as I grew up and matured and both knowledge and spirit, so forth and so on, I started realizing that I really didn't have a problem uh, with the so-called demons or with these spirits or entities or any of them. Uh, there were a few examples and experiences I had which were a little they were a little nerve wracking. Not gonna lie, when a demon tells you that it can that it may not can touch you, but it can destroy everything around you, it kind of changes your perspective on how you approach these beings. And I never approach with disrespect or disdain because that's one of the very first things taught to you is that you have to be disconnected emotionally and mentally. You're not passing judgment on a spirit. You're just when you call them in and you're commanding them to do something, they're told what they're going to do. Uh, and usually this isn't done by the King of the Exorcist. The King of the Exorcist role is to stand there and to make certain that if something needs removed or got rid of, that it is that then it falls on the shoulder of the king of exorcists. Um, Matter of fact, a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about, you're not going to find in a book. You might. Uh, I haven't looked in years, but I do know for a matter of fact that there are very few details or explanations given about it. I was actually taught the role that I fulfilled. Uh, so you have your Solomonic circle set up. It's got the little triangles on the inside and so forth and so on. And then you have one on the outside, which is where the spirit appears. And the director or the chief magus, he stands in the center, and he's giving the oration of the calling. Meanwhile, you have other participants that either stand within the circle or just outside its boundaries, depending on the working at hand. And so anyway, so then and they're doing one chant to keep the energies built up. For anybody who's never experienced this, let me tell you something. It is fucking powerful, powerful shit. It really is. Because it's beautiful when that many people can come together and everybody has like a key piece that they are putting energy into their right. It's quite powerful.
Right.
Also, and I've noticed this that when you're talking about a group setting of people that are summoning a spirit versus an individual summoning a spirit, more people usually, if it's just willy nilly, just well, we're all going to get together, we're going to summon something. There's no telling what will appear. There's no telling what will show up, so forth and so on. No matter how everything's directed, because it's not given a proper formula. But when you do this, when you says, okay, well, 2 to 4 of you are going to be sitting here giving these chants. One set of you is going to be doing one chant. The other one's going to be doing another chant. This creates a difference in pitch and tone throughout the whole thing, causes discordant energies, which is how you summon some of the demons of Solomon, the 72 that they're talking about. This is how it's actually properly done within a ritual format. And like I said, so you have these 4 people who are doing these chants, and there's 2 different ones. One is doing an oration unto the higher powers to give authority over, and one is giving an oration or a chant to the fallen or to those who have been cast out to make their appearance. Well, when you have these 2 energies going, it opens the door. It rends the veil, so to speak. And that's how these spirits come through. And when they come through, depending on how knowledgeable and willful the magus is when he steps forth, or she, because I've seen a female lead it too. It depends on what it is. Which in this case, what they try to do is they try to mix it up a bit, and it's all for polarity's sake, for energy polarity. So like a male figure might call upon the magical force or something, whereas a female orator would come in and do the feminine, depending on like if you're trying to call one of Lilith's children, so forth and so on.
Right.
And this is the part where everybody there has spent at least 2 weeks going through some kind of purification, cleansing rite, where they've sat down and they've done their daily prayers from the time they get up to the time they go down. They're keeping themselves in a said mindset so that the power is more powerful when it comes time for the actual rite. That way, everybody's kind of sitting there in their mind thinking, oh, is this going to work? Is that going to work? By the time it comes time for the ritual, the only thing that's in their mind is what it is that they've been practicing and memorizing and getting prepared to do. So that they're completely in their moment. King of the Exorcist is like by far one of the hardest roles that I've found to play. I got to play the high priest one time during one of these rites, and it's really weird because you have to learn how to harness and channel the energy. And if you don't know how to do that, you're going to be in a lot of trouble because it's not going to work out right. But I had already been playing the role of King of the Exorcist for like something like 8 or 9 months before I was allowed to step into my role. Well, because I had spent all that time, clearing my mind, remaining a pure soul, so to speak, you're able to command most clearly a spirit and say silence, and that spirit is silenced. Like literally, it stands there like it cannot speak. This is the kind of authority and power and control that you actually have. You don't see a lot of it in today's magical world when you see people calling spirits and stuff. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not bashing it, but I'm trying my best to explain the difference.
Right.
Uh, High magic ritual is I've heard a lot of people say, well, if I can get it done without all that, I'm not going to do it. Well, that's great. Do that. That's fine. But there are elements in high magic ritual itself, that all these secrets are taught, that if you ever actually get the chance or the opportunity to participate or to be able to work within a structure like it, it will teach you some really nice stuff that when you step away and you are doing it by yourself at the house or out in the field or wherever you happen to be practicing, you will notice that you're taking that discipline and you will notice the effects are 100 times better even when you're off on your own. But getting back to my point though, so here I am. I'm filling in as a role of King of the Exorcist, telling things when to be silent, so forth and so on, and then giving them permission to speak and all this other stuff, or to continue because sometimes you run across spirits who want to test you. You're not testing
Right.
them; they're testing you, and you're going to
They
find that a lot in high magic. And I personally I don't understand why they do that, but they do.
Well, again, you a lot of times you're working with raw energies, and sometimes, especially if you're working with like the Goetia or something, you're working with, I mean, powerful entities that do want to try to have it the other way around, where they're the master and you're the servant. And so high magic is a discipline itself, and you need to follow its law. And a lot of people don't understand, especially nowadays, that these laws are here for a reason. And if you follow them, and they're really not that hard, um, but if you follow them, you're not only going to have some of the most powerful and effective magic, but you will also be safe.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that, and like you said, you don't find a lot of groups nowadays actually getting together and doing this stuff, especially in a more serious and well organized mindset,
Yeah.
because everybody wants to do their own thing. Well, we're not being jerks when we give ranks or start you from the basics, no matter what you may think you know. What we're doing is we're placing you in positions to see how far and just how disciplined you really are and how far you really can go.
Yeah, I'm
Because,
glad you said
like,
that.
you're working with a lot of raw energy. And, the mechanics of the very universe itself. You talk about all these paradoxes and if effects and things like that. These laws that can be shifted, you're shifting these laws. They cannot be broken, but you are manipulating them to some degree. But if you manipulate them the wrong way, it could have horrible effects, not only in just your life, but in the lives of everyone and everything around you. Um, and these groups that come together, they just kind of willy nilly, you know, that's where you get a lot of your bad talk from, because they go in thinking it's a joke. They don't take it seriously. They don't have the discipline. Uh, they're not clean in heart, mind, body, spirit, and connected with their higher being. And so they royally mess things up, trying to manipulate and alter these laws of reality.
I will defend them on one front. Uh, there's a concept of and couch, Kalch, which means filth, and what that is the practitioner is to be as steeped in about as much low vibrational shit as you would ever imagine to be able to connect with certain well, hell, I'm not going to use the word demonic because that's fuck, that's not even fitting it at all. But some of the darker, denser energies require a devotion on your behalf, and you have to come out of it. Okay, but it's the same thing as when you're connecting with divine lights and so forth and so on. You have to disconnect from that because that's of an etheric nature. Uh, in any nature that is inverse or not on this level that we are, like we physically look around and see, touch, feel upon this physical plane, it's adverse to anything that is natural to us.
Right.
But we use these forces to tap into them. So I use the terms etheric and chthonic, and here's why. So etheric is fire, air. It's the
I use
higher elements. It's where you're going to find, the angelic beings. It's where you're going to find all these so-called lux forces and powers. And in
benevolent.
the chthonic realm, you have to stoop down and you have to become entrenched in all this negativity and so forth and so on. It's where you use a lot of adversarial forces and powers. And when you're working with them, I ran across a few things where you're sitting there, and you have to, you literally, and it reminds me of Satanism so much, where literally anything that is considered inflammatory or anti-religious is actually used as a means or way by which to call these forces because they do not abide within the light. They do not. They
Right.
absolutely don't. But
Well,
that's probably a subject for another time. But it's also a method by which you do this. This is later on taught in the Knox rites. That's what I was saying earlier with the Lima. They do teach you this, and there's this thing called the rite of the beast. And
right.
now
I
I've
know.
performed the rite of the beast 3 or 4 times uh, during certain times of the year. I would do this, and what it is to cement or solidify the cloven hooves, the horns, if you will, because when you're talking about all these workings, what they do is they shape and mold your soul, and if you're on a path of apotheosis or becoming of your own making, your own God self, you have to do all these workings because you have to consciously craft your own soul. We're not leaving it to the power of some divine authority or power to do it for us. Now, this isn't for everybody. It's really not. If you find all the answers that you need and following a Lux or a Nox aspect, go for it. If working with this spirit and that spirit and calling upon these gods and that gods and becoming a follower or something, if that is your thing, that's fine. That's your thing. I'm not knocking any of it. Uh, but there are different aspects to everything, and everybody has their part on the path that they play. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Everybody has a role that they're going to fit into, that they're going to play. It is at their own unique, individual vibratory state of being that they're at in this incarnation. And for others to put down others because of that's fucking ridiculous. Because it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what you believe, what you do. You're not out, being an elitist ass about it. Like, well, I know this and I know that. And I'm like, well, you don't know too much. You would be running your fucking mouth. Because only in silence do we truly communicate with spirit.
Right. Well, I will have to say, I do a lot know understand. I do understand a lot of what you are talking about and everything. See, I might be on the path of esoteric Christianity and esotericism and all that stuff. Well, yes, I mostly do work with the Kabbalah and the Tree of Light and becoming and higher self and all that. But also, there is a second part to this. And to do both parts is even more beneficial. Um, Now, both sides might not be for everybody. Like I said, I mostly work with, you know, the Kabbalah Tree of Light, not the Cliff Off.
Brother, I have watched you
I
in
have
two
traveled down
years
the Cliff Off.
change. I have watched you in 2 years
Mm-hmm.
grow and become and come into your own. Never, dude. I don't care who's watching this or who watches behind. dude, don't judge what you're doing by somebody else. Do what you're doing, because brother, that's your life, your choice, and you were led to it, and you weren't just led to it. You follow it, you live it, you breathe it, and that's you, and that's what makes you you. And I honor
Right.
that, brother.
Well, see, I'll get to that point in a minute, but I have climbed the Kabbalah, the Sephiroth, and the Tree of Life, but I've also trailed down the cliff off. And I have even looked at a Christian, dead in the face before, just bashing, going on. I look on dead in the face and I told him these exact words. Well, good sir, you really want to know something and what I think? He goes, yeah, I do. I told him Satanists actually have it right. Oh man, because they one of their big ideals, especially if you get into the Anton LaVey, they're more theatrical, atheistic type Satanists. They live and let live. They understand they are human, and their way is more of a natural, primal energy versus us trying to be all high and mighty and up here. But no, I have traveled both paths. I have been up and down. Um, and it gives you a lot of perspective. Let's get this word perspective. There is, well, I mean, they say this all the time yin, yang. It's the law of duality. There are two sides to the same coin. Um, but kind of like what you said, you saw me go up for for years, living this, breathing this, doing this, and I've been from one place to another. Um, Really, for me, I wouldn't say it's religion. It is spirituality. Now, people use these terms, both of them, loosely. So, what makes something religious? Tying your shoe could be religious. It's something you do on a frequently regular basis because of doctrine, because you were simply told to do so. Get up in the morning, go to work, put on your clothes, tie your shoes, drive your car. That could be religion. But spirituality, comes when you make it your own. When it is in your heart, it is in your soul, your mind, it is part of you, and it is your course, and you stay that course, it becomes spiritual. And spiritual will override any religion because you ain't got just doctrine. You have experience, you have the actual know how. Um, See, a lot of people are, oh, I like to call them couch occultists. You know what I'm talking about. Don't sit there read all
I
day.
got a couch behind me. I know what you
Uh-huh.
I know what you're saying. Name
Couch,
calling. I get you.
couch
No,
occultists,
I'm
man.
fucking with you,
They'll sit
brother.
there, they'll read all day. They have all the book knowledge, but come on, dude, what are you gonna do with it? Let's get out here and actually put this thing to use. But
There
they
is
go,
a
oh, I did some simple candle magic and this and that. And I've done high magic. Well, that might be the case because high magic can be along the path of anything that gets you closer to the goal of the great work. The great work is becoming part of your higher self, and that is the goal. Is the gnosis, the
well,
knowing. Know yourself.
even in even in left hand path practices, you're still doing the great work. The great work is all about your soul, your own inner divine being, your own self, your own godhood, if you will. Uh, but yeah, there's a fine balance, and everybody has to find it their own. It's one thing, and I learned this earlier on because I started off as just an intuitive motherfucker. I mean, the spirit would tell me something, I know it, I'd write it down, and I would do what they told me to do, and so forth, and so on. And then I started was like, well, I really need to read some more books on this shit so I can make, so I can see where it fits, and so forth and so on. So with my own practice, it became a really fine mix of book knowledge and actual practical application. So yeah,
Hey,
absolutely, brother.
hang on. Photobomb. Say hi. Say hi. Say hi. Come on, get in.
Hello.
Yeah, we stood together, came back from Hawaii and everything. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
been good.
I'm
Been
glad
rough.
you guys came back, man.
Huh?
I said I'm glad you guys came back.
Yeah, it was expensive, and like I said, I haven't been on my channel for a while. I am thinking about getting it started back up and everything, doing it again. Um, and I do know more now. I could easily explain it better now too. So it did do me a little bit of good to kind of go away for a while. Um, I finished up a little bit of my studies in the esoteric seminary, uh, stuff like that. So it's been good. I've been busy,
Well,
but
I was afraid I was gonna lose you to Hawaii, brother.
oh nah, Hawaii didn't take me.
Oh,
But
I'm
I
glad
mean,
you're
it
back.
is a great place. But it is very interesting because it gave me a greater appreciation um, for just how cheap it is here. But it was a good experience. It gave me, there's that word again, perspective. Oh man, it gave me a little bit of perspective. You know what's out there a bit.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all bad. It was very good. Just busy, but kind of going back to what you were talking about, the practical implements and implications of all this stuff. I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. Of course, I'm part of the Amino. I'll send you a link after the video. If you have a place to post it, you can. Anybody is welcome, but it is called um, Christian Wiccans. It started out as Interfaith Seminary or Interfaith Ministry, but it didn't get any following with that, so I kind of ditched that, changed the name, and now the Amino team has been growing that way. Okay, but anyway, anyone is welcome. But a lot of times I hear about burnout. Burnout, man. I'm talking about magical burnout, religious burnout, that people don't know what to do, what's what. They have all this knowledge, but they don't know a damn thing to do with it. But there's actually a reason for that. One of the things I told, it's kind of like I told you, going back to the beginning of the video, strip all labels. I mean, just take away all names. Don't just think about what it's actually there for. Um, you know, because people have too much of a good thing. They have too much information. This path says this thing, that path says that thing. This way does it that way, and vice versa. It's just so much out there. They get lost in it. Well, here's the thing: strip it down to its core. What do you get? You get, all like I said, almost the same thing, just different methods of doing it. Um, so yeah, and one of the things that people suffer burnout is because of this over information. But also, I find that because of it, they don't have a practical way for daily implication. They don't know how to put it in their daily lives. What you think about that one, man?
I can't disagree with that concept. I think lots of things cause burnout. Uh, I think one of the main contributions to burnout is not following one's own inner guidance. Uh, I found that to be true for myself.
I've overdid it before, plenty of times. I've overdone it so much that it's kind of like writer's block. You do it so much, you just get to a point where you're like, I've kind of done everything. What now?
Yeah.
And then I've underdone it before. You got so busy with mundane life, you're just kind of sitting there. What's the reason of continuing on with this? I ain't got time for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. There is a lot of reasons for it.
Well, I'm gonna have to use my buddy Dave Buckman's thing here. He was saying, he does find it difficult at times not to be a little adversarial, a lot of times being put down and judged by a certain religion, and seeing my own soul as a massive tendril shadows creates conflict. Uh, stuff like that, dude. I'm like one on one with the guy on that one because I mean, a lot of times I feel what I can only refer to it as a sinister urge to tell everything to go fuck off and to go fuck itself. And that's in a long range of people. I mean, a long range, not just towards Christians, but people in general, especially those that just they want to push their shit and they want to push it on you. I mean, you got bad apples no matter where the fuck you go. If we were
No
just
matter.
to take knowledge for the sake of fucking knowledge and just read it unbiasedly without trying to push it as the ultimate truth and just fucking listened and just, took it in and meditated on it, find out if it fit us and stuff like that, we'd be a lot further. Uh, and I think that plays a lot to do with burnout too. I just do because, there's a part of it where you have to accept who and what you are, good or bad, or good
Um,
and bad, I should say, or positive and negative, however you want to look at it. You have to take into account, being you
right.
and so forth and so on. You have to employ it. You have to make it what you live and what you breathe. You got to make it who you are, what you are. There are no half steps in life. There aren't. Uh,
Right.
you either wake up and go to your job or you don't. I mean, it's usually just that simple. You
A lot
either,
of times, what we put.
I mean, there are so many aspects, and when you're talking about burnout, I mean, there's lots of things that can do it. Some of it is when you pay too much attention to too many people. When you got too many, when you got too many things in the fire at one time, so forth and so on. Like I personally, I'm involved in so many different things. It's not even funny. I get burnt out from, just constantly at this. But at the same time, it's upon myself to take time for myself to heal, recharge, stuff like this. And that's a lot of what burnout is just not taking care of yourself, taking time for you, because
It can be hard. I mean, I got a family, dude. Like, it can be
yeah,
hard. Work, family, this.
yeah.
A
And then
lot of
when I
things.
give my word to so many different people, hell, I am who I am because I keep my fucking word. You
Right.
know, you are only as good as your word. That's the way I was raised up, and for some reason that shit stuck. And always be a man or woman of your word. And that doesn't mean make everybody think that, but you gotta. After a while, it's not really that you're not really having to put effort into it because if you say you're going to do something, just do it. You know, so
Right.
forth and so on. And this comes back to the whole being true to yourself. This can cause burnout. I mean, there's a laundry list of things that cause burnout.
Oh yeah. But that seems to be one of the most simpler things that I find, especially with the mass community, is they just have all this information and they don't know what to do with it. But it's kind of like you were saying. Um, I kind of want to go back to that. There's bad apples in every community. I have a big issue being both Christian and magician. I mean, everybody wants to look up to like King Solomon and Order of the Golden Dawn and this and that. They do have their um, you know, angelic and Christian type rituals and this and that. But being Christian and magician, you're sitting here in the middle. Nobody wants you. the the Christian community will toss you aside and say, "Get out of here, heathen," and the magical community will say, "Get the hell out of here, Christian." So, and it is a lot of forcing down people's throats type thing, especially with the church and all. Um, they only want to see what they want to see. Uh, and I do listen to, Bible radio and all this other stuff. I stay in both communities, which is a task all its own. But I also hear that the success of the church declined a lot. Well, what are you doing? I don't see people out anymore doing charity works and doing XYZ like, way back then. Um, Now, granted, there are plenty out actually doing this. I've seen it, I've been a part of a few. But at the same time, they tend to go out and overdo it, forcing it down people's throats and yelling and shouting hell. You have uh, um, Christian boot camp. Ever heard of it?
No, not off the top of my head.
They have Christian boot camps, dude. I cannot make this up.
I
But
mean, I went to a Christian camp when I was a kid, but
no, they have Christian boot camps. Oh, it's crazy. But no, I kind of sit in this issue here because I'm kind of not wanted by nobody. But I do myself. I know myself. I know the way I like to do things. So I'm sitting here going, all right, I'm gonna just do me. So getting tied up with a lot of people is kind of an issue because I'm in both communities, but at the same time, I'm just there.
yeah, I'm not so close-minded that my ears are closed off to wisdom, uh, or good advice for that matter. One thing I do know about you, it's sad to say, but in this world, if somebody that like if I didn't know you and someone just comes up and and their tag is Christopagan, the first thing I'm thinking is so you couldn't decide what side of the fence you wanted to be on, and that's the natural first reaction.
Well, see,
Okay, and
if
no,
you
I'm not bashing. I'm not okay, brother. But I'm saying, but
I,
having met you years ago, I knew this about you. Hell, we had talks, and yet you're doing videos on the side of Necronomicon. I mean, you showed me how to make how to make a box of ceiling. I made my own because of your video, brother. I've still got it, and I put it to use.
I got the box of binding idea actually from the Key of Solomon because he had his brass vase.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sitting here going the LZ version with the regular version. Well, what do you do with the seals and symbols after you're done with them and these gate keys? And I'm just sitting here going, I'm kind of taking it from a Key of Solomon perspective. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna mix the two. And so I came up with the idea of getting a little wooden box, burning the seal of binding on it, and consecrating it to keep out other energies out, so I could safely store it and everything, but keep the gate keys and sigils and the seals of the spirit, so the 50 names inside for later use. Um, then I go on to a topic of is it real or not, because a lot of people, the community is split when it comes to the Necronomicon. It's real, and then it's not, and then you got the other people who go, I don't give a damn. So,
Well, in this day and age, I think that this is a point that's been making its rounds, uh,
right,
and has become pretty clear on what's real, and what isn't. It's all based on individual, whether or not you can work with the system, whether or not it works for you.
right.
So on, because not everything's for everybody.
Well,
And I have to give credit to Frater Navo Agrippa, who makes the best point in the whole wide world. All this shit was made up at one point in time. So,
right. And it's kind of like what I was saying. And if you go like the Necronomicon, if you break it down to certain ways, I mean, you get workings with the seven chakras, or you could even work with the Kabbalah with it. I mean, you could work shamanic works with it. I mean, it's so versatile when you strip away labels and get down to the actual source and what it's there to represent and the laws that it that the mechanics revolve around. It's just so easy to just kind of plug things in and just make it your own. Um, But it's kind of like what I said: is it real or not? A lot of people are coming here, and I get this from high magicians. And I make them stop and think sometimes because I'm sitting here going, "Oh, really? So you're wanting to bash on this method, but you're sitting here saying that your method is superior and you can manipulate time, space, and these physical laws in the way you understand it. Well, what if this is the way they understand it? What if, you know, this is how they do the same thing you do? Because
Yeah,
you got the Kabbalah, you have the cliff off. Um, I mean, there's just so much out there.
yeah,
And
that's
so I
cool.
got the idea one day, um, because it's so versatile, when you strip it down to what it is, that's how I was able to mix so much into it. I did make a wand. I do have it actually here in my book. I do have a wand design I made up. You've seen it actually.
Yeah,
The box of binding that I keep all the things in, kind of acting as the brass vessel. I have the Necronomicon circle, um, all kinds of things. But a lot of that wouldn't be possible if I didn't understand the mechanic and what it was trying to do. The idea is the same, but the method is what changed.
yeah. It's for what I try to do is like this right here, and this is the way I look at it. No matter what system of magic you're talking about, no matter what you're doing. So it should start off just the name of what it is.
Right.
And then below, covered in all that, should be the concepts or ideas that you need to keep in mind to be able to work in that current or that force. And then comes the actual layout or material that requires the design by which the workings are done. And then like maybe a list of spirits that are inclined to that particular current. And I
Definitely.
found that as long as I stick to that sort of idea or approach of presenting any system, I found that it works really good because it removes all the dogma and all the bullshit from it. You're just straight up saying, okay, here's the magical system A, blah 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 information. You know,
That
present it like that. That way, everybody can individually take from it what they're going to take from it.
well, see, that also goes back to again the hermetic principles and the laws of magic. Like these don't, you can't break them. There is no physical or mental or even magical way you could actually break them, but they do bend and change accordingly. Um, it's kind of like you were saying. I want to talk about one video that gives a lot of um, controversy, commotion with it a little bit. Is when I have on the little vest in one of my videos. Yes, it is nothing but a piece of cloth with Sharpie. Okay, don't judge. But see, here is the idea. If you know anything about magic, magic doesn't understand any language. It doesn't understand words. It doesn't understand. Your subconscious doesn't understand nothing. What it does understanding is symbolism, pictures, and the ideas behind them. That's why we use these seven laws, or all these laws and principles and um, these mechanics, and this is why we use so much material. And it isn't what the material is per se, because all my gate keys and everything is made out of wood. I mean, I could have a whole altar of wood, but first glance, you probably never think of it if it was a picture, because I have correctly etched them out, wood burned them, I've painted them accordingly, and I know that I have enough to back up the energy that is required for it. But more importantly, I have the symbolism behind it. I understand what
Because
it's
that's what
doing.
awakens the power.
Right. And here, it kind of like what you were saying, go to the principle of correspondence. everything has its place. Everything has its ties to one thing or another. Um, and really, our conscious and subconscious minds don't quite grasp that. So in Magic, we use all these symbols and the stacking methods of do this A, B, C, D, so on, and add all this stuff in. Well, really, if you don't understand it, um, it's rather quite pointless. If you don't know what it's there for and how these ties connect and how these mechanics of the universe actually work, you ain't gonna get it. Um, and that's why these principles are laid out, and they're very simple. It's just follow them. And I find some people have a hard time following them. um, but no, it's just also the principle of rhythm. That's why in the Necronomicon, I have incorporated this practice in my ordinary everyday other works according because I found that it works, and it's simple. Walk around the circle the number of times that is necessary. Let's say if I was to do some sigil magic for some planetary sphere, whatever, I'd walk around. If you do numerology and make a sigil from numbers or using the Kamea squares, I mean, once you get that base number, walk around your circle that number of times as a symbol to your subconscious mind and to the magical self that this is what you're working with. So yes, I do have a whole circle etched in fabric marker. I do have the vest. Yes, it is fabric marker. Um, but it isn't the materials that is important. It is
No,
the
the
fact that
symbolism, the intent, and the putting them into practice.
right, and I am following the laws. You know, I am following the natural laws and these magical orders that have to take place for successful work. So yeah, I'm sitting here going, say what you want. I mean, I do me. I had one guy up on one of my videos. He goes, I guess he was laughing because I had family pictures all on the walls and everything. I don't have space and room for an official temple and this and that and elaborate stuff. Um, and it isn't necessary. It is again symbolism. The temple is a separated place to get us into the mood and mindset of something higher. But I kind of simply just stated, I have a family, I have a life. I don't live with my mom. I mean, I take care of myself, man. I take care of what I need to. But I mean, like I'm like everybody else. And see, I don't have to have all these elaborate things, and I don't have to have, you know, all these riches and so on. It's just because I understand the mechanics and the principles and the reasons why these laws are in place and how to incorporate them in my works. And that's what's important. And like you said, it's the intent, it is the symbolism, and it is the dedication and works themselves. That is what makes successful magic what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I've been
And people seem to forget that. They get so caught up in the material thing. Well, they're no longer reaching for that higher self and that expansion. They're focused on getting all these material.
well. I myself, I like my toys. I like all
Oh,
that
I
goes
love
with it.
those.
I like that, but I employ it to put myself into different mindsets. Like I have a demon mask. I recently went and purchased another mask that I like. That's so completely not me, and have went to working at a ritual meshing of them where I'm going to apply the demon mask to the new one that I had. so forth and so on. And the scary thing is that I was just laying it over just to see if it would look right, and it actually looks cool as fuck. And I was sitting there going, "Wow, that's weird as shit," you know. Uh, so it's not always about this, that, or the other, or what material you're using, stuff like that. It all has to do with does it open the power up inside you? Does it open that door? You know.
Right, and that's I just have to real quick there. In Wicca, they have the same. If it feels right to you, yes, there's a law of correspondence, but in Wicca, you're talking about if this material or this tool says something else to you, or it calls to you and says something, use this instead. Do it. That is part of your higher being, and it is connecting to you in a personal way for this particular thing. So, to be honest with you, I can't bash on that. Even with the laws, like I said, they bend and they change accordingly. So yes, I have improvised. I don't use like in the Necronomicon when I summon the Watcher. I don't have pine resin and new bread and some grass. I mean, what I do have and what does well with me is charcoal and other types of incense. I like to use copal.
Hell yeah.
Copal is very strong, very protective, and it is a very heavy resin. So copal works with me. And I kind of like what Nick said. The Watcher is the symbolic version of your shadow self. It is you in its own right and form. That is the goal you're trying to achieve, is
Yeah.
a form of your Watcher. But you're calling on essentially that higher being of yourself to show you and guide you along your way and protect you while you're trying to, come into its form. So, um, Nick brought that up one time.
Hell yeah. I want to introduce everybody and not interrupt it. This is Mr. Binky. He's a he is really relaxed, chilled cat. Poor little guy. I had him declawed yesterday. I will never ever do that to another animal in my life. Never ever. I was I was up all night, all morning, hand feeding and giving him water through his rent. Yeah, don't look at me like that. Anyway, yeah, declawing's bad, guys. Really, really bad. But I had to show off the kitty. I finally got me one. Uh, he only answers to Binky. I don't get that. I really don't get that. It's the only name he'll answer to.
Okay,
It's just
that's
weird.
what's
I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Hey man, no problems. That's what's up. I mean, he knows what he likes.
All right. Well, I mean,
But
he's
I I want to say something here.
yeah.
Um, I have all these titles and everything. The third Dovak RC. Um, second degree Templar. I'm only second degree. Didn't go through all my degrees yet. Still going through. But there's three really major degrees in the one that I'm in. So second degree is not bad. Um, and I have my way, but wait, if anybody comes in my house and everything, they look around, they see something that doesn't seem to fit right. And this is something that you've been talking about last time. It's a Santa Muerte. I love Saint Death.
Hell
And
yeah.
I got groceries and everything. She is a patron saint. I have all her colors, everything around, man. I mean, La Santísima Muerte is patron. Gotta shout out to that one right there. But yeah, so it's funny because like I said, I have my way. I have all these titles, interfaith minister, and this and that. So it paints an image in people's mind. But like I was saying, I'm no different from anyone else. I know what I like and how I do things. And one of my patron saints is Holy Death. So if you come around, you'll see something completely different. Uh, I don't like to bash or judge because we've been talking about it all night so far.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, that kind of brings up a topic I'd like to talk about. This kind of goes into something that most people don't seem to probably realize. I don't want to really bash on it too much because I mean it really isn't for everybody who has the time to do this. Rosary magic, man. Rosary magic. I tried to make a prayer form for the Necronomicon one time. Rosary magic. The reason being is rosary magic almost follows all the hermetic principles. You have the law of gender, the male and female, Yeshua and Mary, the cause and effect, because you pray this way, this is supposed to happen with this mentality. The principle of rhythm, you pray it and you pray it repetitively and stuff like that. You have the principle of vibration, the vibration of the prayers. Don't just sit there going through the rosary, but actually be in that moment. So it's a very good ritual exercise, and in itself, rosary magic is very much a complete ritual. I'd like to say it follows a principle of correspondence. Each bead could mean different things depending on the way you're praying or what rosary you're praying. Because I've prayed the Riches Rosary, there's the Satanic Rosary, there's the Gnostic Rosary, the Santa Muerte Rosary. There's a lot. But that's just how powerful this is. This simple form that, people might overlook. But Rosary Magic, I want to say, in itself, whether you're praying the 108 beaded mala, Tibetan mala, or the Dominican version of the rosary. I want to say Dominican, might be wrong, but your standard Catholic version. It is very powerful. Whether you're praying the witches one or whatnot, it follows almost all the hermetic principles by itself.
Yeah, I've always I make my own prayer beads. I don't know how to explain it. I have a system that I use to make mine. Always incorporating two different symbols, a beginning and an ending that are one and the same. And I don't like to connect them because I like to think beginnings have never truly begun. Even now, we're in a beginning. So I never like make like a necklace out of mine. I wrap them around my left hand, and go through mantras over each one of the beads and so forth and so on.
So yours looks something more along the line of a witch's ladder type thing.
Straight
line. Same. They're really good. But I do have Santa Muerte rosaries and everything. I do have your standard Catholic rosaries. I do know the Santa Muerte rosary prayers, the Gnostic rosary prayers. We do actually in the esoteric seminaries and everything that I go through, and the Order of the Knights Templar. We do have our own esoteric prayers for these rosaries. Aside from the Gnostic views and all that other stuff.
I gave my personal set to Nick.
Oh yeah.
As a gift, yeah. Because I figured he might could use it. And they're nice. They're useful. They work just fine. But sorry, he's a little groggy little guy. So you pretty much have to tote him everywhere for a little while. He gets up and he wants to go, and so you have to take him where you think he wants to go. But anyway, if anybody had any questions for Ryan here, if you would go ahead and put it in there, because we're gonna. This is about our wind down time here. Uh,
Yeah.
so if you had anything you wanted to ask him,
Actually, you might have to um, give him a shout out because with what I'm using, I can't see.
oh, I was gonna read them off to you, brother.
Nah, it won't let me. Not with what I'm using. I'm not using PC. I'll play with it later. See if I can get him popped up.
But no, I wanna say thank you very much for being on here tonight, Ryan.
Yeah, man, no problem. Actually, how many people we got on tonight?
Oh yeah. If you want to, under comments underneath this video, just leave a link to your amino.
All right.
Because somebody is asking if you could put a link down to
Yeah,
your
and
amino.
I will actually have to say this also. The amino, I did leave for a while there from everything, not just YouTube, but from the amino and everything. Um, so right now it's pretty dead. I do need daily members and everything. I am trying to expand it and grow it. Um, but yeah, and there is so much that I need to put into it. But like you said, like I said, like I said, I'm like everybody else. I get busy. I have work. I have a family, but I do get on at least once daily. So if anybody needs to talk to me or ask my help, I am on. Weekends are probably the best because I'm on a bit longer. Um, but yeah, I will leave a link to that below.
Oh yeah, appreciate that, man. And I want to say thank you to every single one of you guys for being here tonight. It means the world to me. I appreciate it. And yeah, so all the links to his YouTube channel is provided, and contact for Facebook, I believe I put under there. Uh, and then in comments he'll leave a link to his amino, so that for any of you out there on your cell phones or wherever you can find it, get up with them. Uh, that being said and done, do you have anything else you wanted to say, brother, before we close this down?
Well, no, to be honest with you, we actually covered almost every topic I had here too, because I wrote down some topics and everything. Um, just by talking, we kind of covered them all. Uh, really, the point is it doesn't matter where you come from or how you begin. What matters is where you're going and how you get there. And it doesn't matter as long as it fits right with you, man. You're good.
Oh yeah.
Hey, man, there's so much out there. It confuses me sometimes. I won't lie. It confuses me.
Right. Well, I'm gonna wish every single one of you peace, blessings, and power till next time. And you guys know where to find me. Love you guys.
Everybody have a good one.